diving into the life and legacy of Ratan Tata today. Someone who, well,
A titan of industry.
yeah, I mean, left a real mark on India, but more than that, on the global business world, which...
And did it his way, which is, I think...
Exactly, and that's what we're going to unpack. I mean, this is a guy who, get this, piloted his own corporate jet.
It's remarkable, isn't it? Always blows my mind.
Right, like talk about a side hustle, but also lived pretty simply, especially when you think about the kind of wealth.
The kind of power, the influence.
Exactly. So we're talking about the Tata Group, and I think for anyone who hasn't bumped into them.
Which, it's hard to avoid them, honestly. 150 years, that's...
Founded by his own great-grandfather. Think about that lineage.
Lineage and a legacy. They weren't just content with being a big fish in India, though.
No, they went global. And boldly. I mean, Tetley Tea, Jaguar Land Rover, those are brands
Which
that
are power moves, right?
Yeah.
Signaling a real shift. The Indian companies...
could play on the world stage.
Yeah.
But to understand how he led them there, we got to rewind, right?
Absolutely. Back to the beginning.
So picture this. Young Ratan Tata, fresh out of Cornell, architecture degree.
Not the typical... I mean, you wouldn't think.
Path to CEO,
Yeah.
right. But instead of some cushy office,
Which he could have had. No question.
he chooses to work on the Tata steel shop floor,
Which tells you something right there. Not afraid to get his hands dirty.
earning respect from the ground up.
Which you need when you're going to make the kind of decisions he did. Enforcing retirement ages, shaking things up.
Bringing in new blood, even if it ruffled feathers,
Yeah.
and he wasn't afraid to, centralize control a bit.
Had to. The world was changing fast, and India...
Especially in '91 when he takes over, that's...
Watershed moment. Right. Economic liberalization, everything's up for grabs.
Talk about pressure, it's like...
Steering a ship in a storm. But this wasn't just any ship.
No, this was the Tata Group. Weighed down by, well, history, for one.
Expectations to honor the past, but drag it into the future.
While navigating a whole new economic reality. That's a lot for anyone's shoulders.
And then on top of all that, he launches those global acquisitions.
Which, let's be real, no one was really doing that back then.
Yeah.
Indian companies, I mean.
It was a statement, we're here, world, get used to it. Some of it was genius, of course.
Some of it, well,
The automotive stuff's a good example. The Indica, designed for India.
huge hit, right. But then you have the Nano.
His baby, that one. He was sketching designs, deeply involved.
The dream was noble, affordable car for the masses, but it just...
Never quite got there. Safety concerns, the marketing, this idea that it was the cheap option.
It's tough, because it highlights how hard innovation is, especially in a market as...
Well, as complex and demanding as India. That's putting it mildly.
complex is right. And yet, he never stopped, didn't rest on his laurels. That's what takes us to the startup world, which...
Totally different ballgame, right? You've got this, I don't know, almost elder statesman of Indian business.
At an age when most people are, on the golf course.
He's diving into pitch decks.
Seed funding, yeah. And not just dabbling.
Yeah.
Paytm, Ola Electric, Urban Company. These are...
Giants now, reshaping their industries. But back then...
He saw the potential, clearly. Not just another investment, though, right? It was like he was...
mentoring almost.
Yeah.
Nurturing that next generation.
Which I think goes back to, we can't talk about Ratan Tata without talking about philanthropy.
Which, again, not just writing checks. This was...
Baked into Tata Group from the beginning, really.
2/3. Think about that. 2/3 of Tata's sons.
With an S size, by the way. People always think it's possessive.
It's the holding company. 2/3 of their capital.
Philanthropic trusts. Billions, we're talking.
Education, healthcare, poverty alleviation, direct impact.
When you look around the world, I mean, what company can say that? For a century, practically.
It's a part of their DNA almost, that idea that...
Great power, great responsibility, all that.
But they lived it. Wealth as a tool, not just
Mayo trophy, yeah. Which makes the whole Cyrus mystery thing even weirder, right?
Yeah, we got to talk about that. It's...
Casts a shadow a bit on the legacy, even if...
Well, it's complicated. So for those who don't know, Mystery becomes chairman, 2012.
First time outside the family, right? Big deal.
Huge. And then 4 years later, gone. Pushed out, and...
Tata's behind it, at least partly.
That's where the lawsuits start flying.
Mystery's claiming interference, that Tata was undermining him.
Tata's side says, performance? That Mystery wasn't cutting it.
It became so public, so ugly.
Large rooms, courtrooms, the whole 9 yards.
And it raises this question of, how much is too much? When you're, I don't know, chairman emeritus.
Legacy versus, stifling new ideas.
Where's the line? And honestly, there's no easy answer.
It shows even the greats, they're human.
Fallibility, right? Emotions get involved.
It's a case study almost. Leadership transitions, how messy they can be.
Especially with so much history in the line. But maybe we should shift gears a bit from, I guess, the messier stuff to the impact, which is undeniable. When you saw the tributes pouring in, I mean,
From everywhere, right? Every corner of the world.
world leaders, everyday folks in India, it's like he became
A
this,
symbol, almost. Bigger than just business.
embodied that decent soul in a Shark Tank idea.
Yeah.
He wanted to win.
But never at the cost of, like, his core.
His values,
Yeah.
exactly. And that's got to be the takeaway, right? It's not just the deals, the money,
It's that you can be powerful, successful.
but still use that power.
For good. He never stopped pushing for social change. Through Tata, personally.
It's a good reminder. We all have a role to play.
No matter what you do, who you are.
Kindness matters, even in the boardroom, right?
Maybe especially there. Ratan Tata proved that.
Makes you think, though. What are we building? Each of us.
What's your legacy going to be?
It's so easy to get caught up in the now, the next deal.
But in the grand scheme of things,
What do you want to be remembered for? That's what this boils down to.
those aren't easy questions.
No, but Ratan Tata, he makes you face them, whether you're ready or not. So we've taken a deep dive here, haven't we? This is Ratan Tata, the pilot, the head of a global empire, the guy who gave away billions. But more than that, someone who really redefined what leadership looks like in our times.
Yeah, his passing really hit a lot of people hard.
A lot of folks want to go beyond the typical headlines, And I can definitely see why we're not just talking about a successful businessman here. This is Ratan Tata, for goodness sake. The man left his mark on everything.
Oh, absolutely. From the cars we see on the streets every day to the tech startups that are shaping India's future.
Exactly. It's mind-blowing when you think about the scope of his influence. I mean, where do we even begin?
Well, we have to start with Tata Group, right? I mean, this is a company that owns everything from Tetley Tea to Jaguar Land Rover. It's massive.
Okay, so let's talk about that for a second because, wow, Tetley Tea and Jaguar Land Rover, talk about a range of acquisitions.
It really speaks to a pivotal shift in the global business landscape.
An Indian company owning Jaguar Land Rover. Back in 2008. That had to have been huge.
Huge is an understatement. This wasn't just a business deal, it was a statement. Here, you had an Indian company under Tata's leadership acquiring some of the most iconic global brands. They weren't just competing, they were setting a new standard. It really challenged the world's perception of Indian industry.
It almost makes you think about the journey of the Tata Indica,
Yeah.
A car designed and built entirely in India.
A symbol of self-reliance, national pride.
And at a time when India's economy was really taking off, too.
You're right. It really captured that sense of possibility, that India was capable of not just participating in the global market, but excelling in it.
So then you have the Nano, which, aiming to create the world's cheapest car. That's a whole other level of ambition.
But you see, the Nano wasn't just about business. It was about social impact. Tata recognized that for a huge part of India's population, car ownership was simply out of reach.
You wanted to change that.
He wanted to make mobility accessible to everyone, regardless of their income. Now, the Nano, commercially, it faced its challenges. But it stands as a powerful reminder that businesses can be a force for good, even if the path isn't always easy.
It speaks volumes about his philosophy, right? This commitment to social impact. It wasn't just some PR stunt. It was woven into the fabric of the Tata Group. The fact that a good chunk of Tata Sons is held by philanthropic trusts. That's incredible.
That's Tata's legacy in a nutshell. He understood that a company's success is inseparable from the well-being of the society it operates in.
It's not just about profits, it's about purpose. And you see that in his support for Indian startups as well. I mean, Paytm, Ola Electric, these weren't just investments, they were endorsements of innovation and entrepreneurship.
He saw the potential of these companies not just to generate financial returns, but to drive progress in India, create jobs, and really push the boundaries of what's possible. It's inspiring, to say the least.
So when you look back at a life like Ratan Tata's, a life that touched so many people, what's the takeaway?
I think it boils down to this: the power of combining ambition with a deep sense of purpose. You can achieve great things in business, but when you use that success to uplift others, to make a real difference in the world, that's when you create a lasting legacy, just like Ratan Tata did. And it makes you wonder, what kind of legacy will we leave behind? How can each of us, in our own way, strive to use our skills and resources to create positive change?
That's a powerful question for all of us to consider. Right.